The intended use of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests independently, and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of UpDog Challenge Incorporated, its sponsors, or any other partnered organizations. UpDog Challenge Incorporated does not guarantee the accuracy or reliability of any opinions expressed. In no way should the information provided during the Sweet Spot, an UpDog podcast, be considered veterinary, medical, legal, or professional advice. At all times, the advice of your personal professional should supersede any information provided, derived, or inferred from listening to this podcast.
Ready, set, go.
Welcome to the Sweet Spot, an UpDog podcast. I'm Andrea Morissette.
And I am Jack Faley, and you can see that we have some other faces on our screen today. We've got two guests. Our guests, Dre, who are they?
We have Kat and Bryan today. Bryan is our mastermind programmer who is ultimately responsible for everything having to do with the site and the team site. And obviously everyone knows Kat as our fearless leader of all things admin and knowing all the right answers.
So, wow, Dre, way to suck up the Kat there.
It's true.
So today's topic should be pretty interesting, I think. We did this last year, and we feel it's a good thing to do for our community, because we every year after UpDIF we send out a survey to our players because we want to know what went well, what didn't go well. Do you have thoughts on anything that could perhaps make things go better the next year? And one thing that's important to us as a team is to make sure that you guys know that we really do take the feedback seriously. And also on the flip side of that, kind of, I guess, is to let you know that, there are 300 to 400 people that went to UpDIF. Lots of people have differing opinions. And sometimes, you get into like your group and your group of people are all like, yeah, they should do this next year. So you think everybody around you is thinking the same thing, but there's another group of people like across the field or whatever that are coming up with a different idea and saying, I think they should do this. And so a lot of times with our survey, although it may seem like consensus seems to be saying one thing, when we look at the data, and that's what Bryan is here to help us with too, is to look at the numbers and really go, all right, consensus wise, what are people really saying? Because if there's only a few people saying something, we don't want to change something for everyone when there's only a few people that thought we should. So anyways, it's really interesting to dig into the data, and I've got my notebook. I'm going to take some notes for next year. Anything related to stuff that I kind of champion for the team, I'm going to write down. And I know Bryan and Kat were already doing that as well. We actually had a team meeting last night and discussed some things and made some notes as well. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to just kind of start going through the survey in a logical manner, right, Kat? We're going to start off at the beginning. So Kat, where should we start?
We are going to start with the first question on the survey, which has to do with registration and communication. And that category scored very well in terms of numbers, extremely well, actually, in terms of numbers. And then, as always, there's super interesting comments that people make, and there's super helpful comments, and then there's, unhelpful comments. So we're going to just kind of talk through those, but we're going to start there. Bryan, do you want to start? Do you have any notes for that category, since that's a lot of your category?
Yeah, so I've got a graphic that maybe we can put in the show notes, or I'll probably make a post on Facebook with it after we do this as well, that shows all the different categories and the ratings. And happy to say the registration process scored the highest, an average of 4.8 out of 5. I think there were just maybe a couple people that had some sort of glitch with reordering and ranking their runs, which of course is not super great, but also out of 300 something registrations, I kind of hard to track something like that down that only affects maybe 2 or 3 people, but definitely something I'll be looking into. I don't really remember any other kind of comments about registration specifically, other than the communication part of it, which we'd been talking about for a while, a way to get away from Facebook being the nexus of communication about UpDIF. But we also know from experience in the past that email isn't great, because a lot of people may not realize this, but if you try to send an email to 300 different people, a high percentage of those emails are likely going to go into their spam folder. So something that we're actively working on, some other communication channel that we can use.
Yeah, or just not get read. I know multiple people that are like, if you send me an email, please text me as well, because I only look at my email like every 3 weeks or something. And I'm like, what? Okay. I think that that's definitely an older email is kind of an older person communicate form of communication, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure.
By the way, great job on the registration, Brian. I know the team's already said that, but publicly, like, I just think it was a lot to swing by moving switching over the site right before registration and then rolling with registration right after that. But I mean, it seemed to work out really well and got good feedback, which is great.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, basically, if we can find a solution for 2027 that takes everything off of Facebook in terms of announcements, in terms of push notifications and all that, we will certainly do it, because we understand that Facebook is not ideal. I mean, in the past, like early UpDIFs, that's how we communicated, was email, and people kept getting, complaining that they weren't getting them and they were going to spam. So then we moved to a Facebook event page, but those get hacked and people don't get all the notifications. So this year we just kept it on the discussion page and kept anything like really important pinned at the top. It sounds like not a lot of people checked the pins, or maybe didn't scroll through the pins, because there was a lot of suggestions to pin important things at the top, but important things were pinned at the top. So, I don't know what the solution is for that. And then there were some people who complained that
the top doesn't change, right? The algorithm doesn't affect what you pin at the top, does it?
Right. But there were multiple posts, so you have to scroll to see all of them. So if they didn't scroll, as we got closer to UpDIF, there were more posts pinned. So you may have to scroll over to see something quite old.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they missed. I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's just important that our teams, I don't know another way to say it, our teams, our competitors, know that we are thinking about other ways in which we can communicate, and I think redundancy is a good thing. Like if we find another spot, it's not like we just switch and go solely to email, but maybe we do email and Facebook and the live fact sheet and something else, whatever that something else might be.
Something like maybe a Discord chat, which could be useful during UpDIF itself, potentially. But that's another thing to have to monitor and moderate.
Yeah. And the people that don't use it, they're going to have to add that. So it's kind of the same issue as people that don't use Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of suggestions. For a vast majority of them, we've tried them and they haven't worked, or we've gotten complaints about them. So, it is what it is. Maybe somebody will invent something between now and then that will work great for us. I don't know. The good news is we didn't get hacked this year and lose our entire Facebook page like last year, so that was a win.
Plus,
a few people complained that they didn't like information only coming out on the podcast, but nothing of importance only came out on the podcast. Everything eventually got put in the live fact sheet. So there might have been some misses there, people just not seeing stuff on the live fact sheet or not posted on Facebook or whatever. But the live fact sheet has everything you absolutely need to know. There might be extra things that, would be nice to know, but there's nothing that would like destroy your entire UpDIF experience if you
Didn't listen to the
did
podcast.
listen to the podcast, or that's not on the live fact sheet. But
Right.
anyway,
You heard it here first from Kat. Nothing of importance is shared on the podcast.
said of drastic importance. Like that's what I said. Like it's not what I said is that it's not
It's
only
not
on the
critical.
podcast.
They're not. Yeah, I think
Like it might come out first on the podcast, but then it'll show up on the live fact sheet a few days
Yeah,
later.
I know what you're saying. I'm just giving you a
Okay.
hard time.
I'm trying to be nice to your podcast when other people were hating on it. So
Well, and anything that gets posted of importance on the podcast, fin caps, right? So
yeah,
Right.
but we're not really
Check the
relying
fin
on FinCap or official UpDIF information. But anyway, so overall, like I said, it was overwhelmingly positive. There were just a few little things here or there. The notifications on the live fact sheet worked really well. Some people said they couldn't get them if they were on Android, but I'm on Android and I got them, so it must be a certain kind of Android maybe. And I was able to turn off the make suggestions thing. When I set up live notifications, originally that had to be on, but something changed between then and now that now I can turn those off and people still get notifications. So if we're, we've already got a live fact sheet for next year, so clearly we're going to at least use it until something new is invented between now and then. So go ahead and turn your notifications on. And this time you won't get all the suggestions of people who accidentally hit enter and move a period or something like that, because that was super annoying. That's it, really.
All right, let's move on to another topic.
The next one was lodging and location. Really not I mean, lodging wise, there were some complaints about the main host hotel where the banquet was held.
Yeah, I think Brian has firsthand knowledge of that.
yeah, it wasn't. It was. I can only speak for my room. It was okay. It wasn't, super luxurious, but it was clean and okay. Some of the comments though that people made sound like there were bug infestations and other issues, so that's a little worrying.
Yeah, and that's not something we can control. I mean, we didn't go looking through the rooms before we, put that hotel on the page, but
And the other thing is too, something that we've noticed a couple times, a lot can happen in a year or a year and a few months, because many times, we are scoping event places to host UpDIF over a year in advance. And so you see something and you're like, this looks pretty good. Well, if in that year's time, like no one's really been utilizing that hotel very much and they kind of lose some funding and, like their staff goes down, you show up a year later and things don't necessarily look exactly like they did when you were there a year and a few months earlier. Same can be said for, the field conditions and all of that as well. It's just it's difficult when the location is far from where most of us live and you can't like keep a watchful eye on it. I don't know. I don't know how we would have known that that the rooms weren't going to be spectacular, but I'm glad that Brian's room was okay, and I'm sorry to hear that some other folks had some issues. But honestly, sometimes that happens even at hotels where you think it's a nice hotel, you're paying a lot of money. You shouldn't run into that, but sometimes you do.
Right. There are again few suggestions of things that we already do. Like one person's like, well, next time we should book the whole campground. Well, we did book the whole campground. The whole campground was us, which was actually really cool to like walk around and, see everybody that and like everybody had dogs and stuff. The first couple of days it was interesting because people were still in the campground from before, and so they were a little taken aback by all of the dogs, but by Wednesday it was all us, which was really quite cool. So yeah.
But, and I heard some of the camp hosts, the folks that are kind of permanently stationed there when you would check in.
Mhm.
Like one day when I was driving in, I heard them kind of talking about the dog folks and how loud it was going to be in the evening with all the dogs and would everybody be able to fall asleep or whatever. But I mean, I was walking dogs many times, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it was nice and quiet. I mean, everybody did a great job with their pups and getting them pottied and getting them, in the trailers and to bed. And I think the quiet time started at 10, so everybody was awesome in that regard.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and it had a
Um,
great vibe on the campground as usual. We used the
yep.
little campground thing to make s'mores one night, the thing that came in the player's pack. What do we call that? The little camping fire thing?
Stove,
The
campfire
little
stove.
Solo
campfire stove.
stove.
Yeah, so people were using that and making s'mores one night and having card games and meetups and grilling together. And that's one of my favorite parts of UpDiff and the campground is just after everything is, done for the day and everybody's tired and just chilling out to have that bit of community.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
think
that
we
was
got
great.
to do that one night. So, and it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, and on another podcast and followed by a Facebook post, I'm sure, and other communications, we'll let you know about camping for next year at Decatur as well, because
Yep.
there is a very close campground at that location as well.
Yep. And that one allows tent camping too. So that was one of the drawbacks of this year's campground is that it did not allow tent camping. So that'll be better. Next year is the tent camping option really close by. So
All right, let's move on.
move on.
Let's get to some salacious stuff.
Okay. Tuesday activities. Again, this scored really well. A lot of high praise about the pairs games, a lot of high praise about human fireball.
Human Fireball was so much fun
It
to
was
judge.
amazing.
I was just laughing the entire time.
It was so fun to watch. It was amazing. Some people suggested that we just do all human games on Tuesday next year, or maybe we do, like one pairs game and then some human games. Although some people got hurt in that, leading into their week of UpDiff,
Yep.
but
Hey,
that's on them.
no
Jack
guts,
warned them.
no guts, no glory.
Jack warned them, so But some people are more competitive than they should be at some things, I guess. Um,
One of the suggestions there was, and I heard some chatter about it at UpDiff as well. So the pairs games, one of the suggestions was maybe the UpDiff team should have like other clubs run the pairs games so that we're not, needing to do that while we're setting up the UpDiff up and
Good
whatnot.
idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's something that we have actually been doing for the last like 5 years or so. Is that other clubs run the games. Those are not run by the UpDog team.
I mean, we run the registration and we hand them all the information. After that, we're
Right.
hands off that day, which makes it great for us.
So one of the things though in the mix of that is that I don't as I'm planning for awards, I honestly don't ever even think about getting awards for the pairs games because in my head I'm like, well, those are handled by the clubs, but there really hasn't in the club's defense, there's been no communication about, hey, make sure you get some awards for the pairs games. So the pairs games have always been kind of like, hey, great job. Here's some cool stuff from a sponsor. This is your award. But I have in my notes that next year we will have real awards for the pairs games. So if you are out there and playing with your teammate and you get a first, second, or third place award, it won't just be a bag of treats and a disc. This coming year, I'll actually have something cool for you. We'll put together some real awards because those are real games, and it's some. I mean, a ton of people are just out. Everybody's out there having fun. I was telling Dre, one of the things I love about pairs games is I have absolutely no expectation
Yeah.
because I haven't played with this dog sometimes ever. We haven't planned as a team, and we're just going out there to have fun and see what happens. But I also know that there's some real competitive spirit out there too, to do well. And so I'd like to award those teams that do well in pairs with something cool to remember that by the following year. So that's in my notes.
It's cool awards, but not official UpDIF games. Because a few people ask that we make them official UpDIF games, but then that puts us back in the mix of having to run everything, and that's not going to happen.
Well, and if they were official UpDIF games, you guys would have to qualify for them with points, which would mean that your partner would have to be there the whole time, which would probably take out half of the teams that played on those days, because at least half those teams were just random, like, hey, would you want to play with so-and-so? Yeah, that sounds awesome. You wouldn't be able to do that if they were official UpDIF games. So they won't be official UpDIF games, but they will have some cool awards. I think that's in my opinion, that's a good way to handle the pairs. I agree with me.
Well, I think it's good to keep it as like light too. You know, like everything else for the week is like has a certain amount of significance because you did have to qualify for it and you did have to invest your time and money to travel to get there, you know, and pairs is kind of like an icebreaker, in my opinion, you know, just to get out there and have fun, connect with people. That was our intention, I think, was to just to get people together doing stuff in a fun, not like just a relaxed, less pressury kind of way. And then you get, like you said, Jack, you get to create new pairs that of people that you just don't see or don't live next to, and you get to play with your friends. So I like the laid back version.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
There were a couple suggestions, I think, to do some sort of matchmaking process, like a Tinder for pairs games. We can
Nice.
think about doing that. And just by the numbers, oddly enough, the pairs games in Human Fireball is like fourth from the bottom, even though the average is a 4.28, so like still really, really high. But I remember the comments all being very exuberant for the most part. So it's kind of interesting how people ranked it by the actual number that they put.
I think maybe the people who didn't come and play possibly like were like, oh, that was a 1, I didn't play, or something like that. Yeah, and that would be my guess anyway. So all right, on to the next topic. The very hotly debated worst topic that we have is banquets.
Oh, banquets, yeah.
Boy.
All three banquets are the very bottom of the scale, with Thursdays being the lowest. Granted, its average was like 3.12, so still, you know, above 50%, but that's absolutely the lowest rated sections.
Yeah. So
It's
I think,
fascinating.
yeah, I think you wanted to talk about how the meal pays for the venue, like kind of talking through like why you kind of have to pay for food, like, you know.
Well, I was just saying that, like, I know that, like, I don't know, it's just there's a lot of different factors, so it's hard to like tie down, like, you know, what people may like or not like about the banquets, or what they might get frustrated with, and I know Thursday night's not the night that I had to get my teacher voice on and talk to people about the food and the portioning and stuff like that. That was Saturday, but Thursday was what kind of created the issue. So there were suggestions, you know, UpDog should purchase more meals so that there's not a issue with the amount of food. And again, this is like so dependent upon the venue, and you're not sure like what their portioning is going to look like. We did order extra portions, but not even though we ordered extra portions for Thursday, at the point that food started running out, there was still a line of about 20 to 30 competitors, not even the UpDog team, because the UpDog team kind of waited until the end. So add like 8 more people to that 30 people waiting there. So you've got almost 40 people out of 330, because it was, I think 330 for Thursday, that didn't get food. I mean, that's like a shortfall between the extra meals and the people waiting. That's like 40 people at least worth of food that somehow got eaten by somebody else and got on somebody else's plate. But then on Sunday we have Moe's, and they just bring so much food. Like, I mean, Dre was one cleaning up. Unfortunately, we had to throw out a ton of food. because there was way more than what we needed. So it's really it's challenging. And of course, what we tried to do was on Saturday just simply say, like, just realize that everybody needs to eat, make sure that everybody gets something, and then come on back, of course, and get more later. And that did seem to work, by the way.
Yeah,
There was plenty of food left over on Saturday. And in the mix of all that are folks that have dietary restrictions. There are people that maybe didn't want to eat what was on the menu, or they wanted a cheaper option, so they looked at the kids' menu, or maybe the kids' menu was just something that they wanted instead. But obviously, what happens is when you get a venue, anybody who's done an event at a hotel or a conference center, you get a really cheap price on the venue because they make up their money on the food. Like we're really not being charged $40 a plate just for the food that's there, but we're being charged $40 a plate for the food slash the rental of the venue. So when some people pay for the meal and then others don't pay for anything and they just show up, then that's not really fair to those folks that are paying for the meal either. We don't know what the solution is. We've battered around so many different ideas. We Sunday's banquet, we know, had a lot of that was the one I think that was rated the highest. But also in looking at the data and talking to people, I talked with folks at my last couple seminars when we went out to eat, and I was asking them their thoughts. What do you think of the banquets? Like, should we continue to do the banquets or just do things at the field? And there was a small portion that was just like, yeah, just do everything at the field. But then there were a lot of more folks that said, no, I like the banquets. The banquets make it a real event. They make it a special thing. And then, of course, logistically, weather is always a factor. The banquet on Sunday was awesome because the weather was awesome. And
Imagine it being raining or 30-mile-an-hour wind like we've had at previous
right. We weren't trying to keep the tents up. Nothing was knocking over the podium with the wind.
The banquet in Helen one year, as we were in the banquet Sunday night, tornadoes were going through just north of us. So, if we had been at the field, that banquet wouldn't have happened. So, it was fantastic this year, but it is 100% weather dependent.
Yeah.
And so we get a giant tent. Unless we get a giant tent on the field that we're just going to do all the banquets there, and then we have enough to hold 400 people, but that's a huge tent.
And that's still weather dependent. If it's lightning or there's tornadoes going through or high winds, we're not going to be hanging out under those tents. So it's still weather dependent.
I mean, we've got some ideas for next year. We're still fleshing them out. One of the nice things about the venue next year is that we are allowed to bring in food from another location, because some venues won't let you do that. Some venues are like, no, you must buy food from us. Like, that's how they make a lot of their extra money. Just interesting. This was in the feedback as well, that we ran out of drinks. So I went up and I was like, hey, we need some more iced tea. We need some more lemonade. And they did put more iced tea and more lemonade out. So whoever said that they didn't ever refill them, that is incorrect. Iowa stayed on top of it. It took them a second to refill it. And I know that they refilled it because every gallon of lemonade, every gallon of iced tea was $25. And so that's how they make their money, is on the food and drinks. But the nice thing about Decatur and the venues there is we can bring in outside food. So if we wanted to do, like, different pizza options one night, we could do that, and we could have veggie pizza, and we could have gluten-free pizza. And so, like, we can tailor to folks' dietary needs a little bit better than we can when we're stuck with, one food source.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Kat. Sorry.
One thing that the banquet venue did this year that I'm now going to steal that idea is for the vegan people, they sourced that food from somewhere else altogether. Like they went and picked it up from some vegan restaurant or something and brought it in like, little containers. And I'm like, okay, well, rather than
Yeah.
next year when we go to Texas Roadhouse, when we have them cater, because that worked out great for almost everybody last year. Instead of trying to put together a veggie meal for those people, we'll just go get a vegan meal from somewhere else and be like, okay, these white containers are for the vegans, and then here's the black containers for the Texas Roadhouse. Like, I'm going to steal that idea. I think that'll work out.
And
really
the communication with the venue, the people leading the meal at the venue, that was sketchy. I apologize to the vegan folks. Like, I didn't know where the meals were at the onset of when the meals started coming out. And so the vegan folks, I think, jumped in line and thought, well, I guess I'm going to have to fend for myself and just find some food on the serving line that works for me. I had a hard time even as I asked people who were working there, I'm like, who's in charge? And they're like, this person. And then I would go to talk to that person. I'm not in charge, this person. So anyways, I have notes about that, just making sure that communication is better. And hopefully then we'll be able to make sure that everybody with dietary needs gets gets what they need.
Yeah, a few people commented, oh, we should have plated dinners. In order to do a plated dinner this year, we would have had to have a seating chart. So that wasn't going to happen. But that is how it works for Decatur, is it's essentially plated dinners. And because that meal worked out really well. It was the buffet that we had problems with last year. If we ever have a buffet again, we are going to put people at the line watching. We're going to have people checking bracelets before they go in, because that's how Saturday night's dinner was a success this year, is everybody got monitored. Nobody was able to load up their plate with tons of food. If they wanted tons of food, they could get it on the second pass. And like we said before, there was food left over Saturday. There was actually food left over on Thursday. People, when that extra food came out, people didn't go and get it. And then someone complained that there were not enough desserts on Saturday, but the desserts kept getting replenished and there were desserts left over on Saturday. So it's just interesting what people take away as they think is their reality. But
yeah, well,
in reality, there was food left over.
Well, and the dessert table it was a little bit of the help maybe not being right on top of it to replenish things. But then I would go tell them like, hey, we're all out of blah, blah, blah. And then it would get replenished. But to Kat's point, there were plenty of desserts on Saturday. And at the end of the night, there were desserts left over. But when you walked up to the dessert table, it may have looked decimated. And it was, you were in between the team replenishing it. And so you thought there was no desserts. But,
right.
We'd like it all to run super smoothly, but unfortunately, you got a lot of hands in the pot and not great communication with some folks.
Well, and I think that
crap's gonna happen. Sorry.
I think that we have a solution for future years. Like again, we're never having a buffet without having monitors. And sadly,
why don't we call it support staff?
Okay. I mean, there were literally people who had to tell people, hey, you can't have 5 pieces of chicken right now. Please put some of it back. You can come back for seconds. So, I would call it monitors. But,
all right.
Well, I think it's a combination of that and the people that said they do not want to eat. They do not want to pay for it. And then they came and ate anyway. And this has been something that's happened in multiple years. So and
I had someone tell me that when they were walking by a couple tables on Thursday, the day that we did run out of food, that there was food on the tables that people got and didn't eat. So it's like people just need to be more conscientious of their choices and think about others. Again, Saturday night went much better when we were monitoring the situation. Tons of food left over. So
people don't like that parentification thing where we're
they don't.
And it's not 85% of the people operated just fine. 15% that stacked their plates or didn't have a meal ticket that made everybody have to have the conversation, from Jack and Kat and me having to stand at the line one way or another. Like, looking over people, and none of us want to do that. We just want to relax
Right.
and eat our food.
We would
But,
like to treat everybody, like adults.
as
People are like, we
adults,
didn't like being treated like children. Well, we don't want to treat you like children. But unfortunately, 10 or 15% of the people are requiring it. And
and
so,
40 people haven't eaten and that
right,
paid for their meal. And so we have to
right.
give them something. And we shouldn't have to pay an extra, $2,000 or whatever for additional food to compensate for people that didn't pay for food. It's just
Yeah.
it's an integrity
When we
issue.
already
Yeah,
when we
it's not a
already
problem.
did pay for additional food
Right.
because we thought that might happen, we just didn't think
Yep.
it would happen to the level that
No
it did.
buffets. No buffets. We're done.
There were, but before we move on, I just think we should touch on the registration part of it, why we had to do it in that weird two-phase way. And I know, Kat, you can probably describe it more clearly, but my understanding is the venue kind of misled us at first of the capacity of the rooms, so we had to get a sort of a vibe check on how many people were going to come to see if that venue would even work. So we couldn't charge people because we didn't know what the pricing would be if we would have to pick a different venue.
Right.
Correct me if I'm-
Yeah, well, we were stuck with that venue because we were contracted into that venue, but
Okay.
we might have had to switch to reception style and be like, okay, everybody, it's just going to be light appetizers, grab food on your way or something like that. Because the paperwork for that venue said that it sat 500 people in reception or in banquet style.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even sit 400. And we didn't know that until we had already signed a contract and we're like months in on planning and all that. So that was like the curveball and exactly what Brian said. That's why it had to be in two different shifts. And yeah, that sucks. And again, I think the banquet situation next year, because we've already been to Decatur,
Yep.
we already know what we're dealing with.
And we have more
We
control,
already
I
know
feel.
what companies work for food like at that location. Like we'll be able to do everything with registration.
And
So,
anybody that was at Decatur 2 years ago, it's not the same banquet
right.
hall that we were at a couple times that didn't have any tables. See, that's another thing.
That was
Like
fun.
at Decatur,
We
it
had
was
to rent them.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Like when we visited the venue, like I asked about how many people it could seat, how many tables they have, and they led us to this room and opened it up, and they're like, "See all the tables that we have?" And like I literally counted all the tables that they had, and multiplied by 8 to figure out how many chairs, and they had a room full of chairs. I'm like, okay, this looks good. A year later, when we show up, Dre and I are setting up the banquet, and I would say a third of the tables in that room were broken and had no legs. And I'm like, how would we have known this? Like, like why are you storing broken tables with no legs in this thing, trying to deceive your folks that are using your venue?
It
But
looked like
anyway,
the tech graveyard from UpDIF. It was just like a
Yeah.
pile of like broken tables and chairs in the back. So we had to
Yeah.
rent stuff, didn't we? Or
Well,
did we
we
end
were
up finding
going to
enough?
have to, but then
Yeah.
when it got canceled, then we didn't do the Saturday night banquet.
Oh,
We didn't
right.
have to.
Yeah, there were less people there for
So
Sunday.
yeah,
We put up chairs because it was
I think that was the best banquet. Was the Sunday
brunch.
beer and eggs banquet.
Beer and bring your own breakfast is what it was.
Anyways, it's very hard when you are visiting a venue and then a year and 3 months later you come back and you expect things to be the same, or it's a challenge.
The other part of that question was a ton of feedback about the cumulative and average year-end awards and where those awards should go and that they take too long. And we agree they 100% take too long. Last year we did that banquet on Wednesday. We'll do that again this year. We'll split it out to Wednesday. It wasn't possible in Winston-Salem.
Well, we talked about other options as well.
There's other options too. Maybe we won't do it on Wednesday, but it won't be
with
on Thursday and
Added
Saturday.
on to the very long already days. Yeah.
Right.
We have some cool technology ideas that if we can figure out how to make them work, I think those will work the best, but more on that later.
Yeah. Let's just say it's possible to do it on Wednesday again this year, but maybe
just like you said, it won't be Thursday, Saturday. We won't be keeping you at the venue till 9:45 at night.
Right, exactly. So, all right, next topic is awards. We asked the question this year because Jack puts, and and Babs previous to a couple years ago put a ton of work into those custom awards. And some people complain about them, even though, you know, they're super custom. And that's a bummer. So Jack wanted to ask this year, like, what's your preference? Do you like all the custom awards? Do you want custom awards just for the top 3 and then like crown, medals, or ribbons for the divisionals and the placements like we used to do? Do you want all crown type, you know, ribbons and trophies and medals for everything? And the way that came out was 55% of the people want all custom. 24.2% of the people want custom for top 3 and then crown, ribbons, and medals for everything else. And then 6% said all crown. And then I let people free answer. And so that all the rest of the percentages that are missing from that to get to 100 were a billion other comments, including I've never won one, so I don't have an opinion, things like that, which you can still have an opinion even if you've never won one. But so anyway, it seems like everybody loves the custom awards. Well, not everybody, but most people love the custom awards.
75% of the people love the custom awards, at least for the top 3.
Right.
And it could save you an exorbitant amount of time to just focus on the top 3 and then use crown.
Yeah, I mean, it's way easier for me to just order a medal at Crowns. I just, you know, UpDIF, you know, kind of has a particular vibe and we have themes and so I'm okay spending the time, but only if people appreciate it. If people are like, this is lame, then, you know, that makes me feel like, all right, well, here's your freaking ribbon then.
I mean, people were like, what do I do with these diffusers when I'm not using them? And you know what? You just stack them up like you would if it was a medal or a ribbon or something.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And some people, and I get it, because I also have won multiple things before. But like humble brag. When you do win more than one of something, it does sort of like you're walking away with like 3 diffusers or something, and you're like, well, what the heck am I going to do with these 3 diffusers? And so 1 diffuser makes sense. I can use that, but like 3, 4, 6, I know some people had like a bunch of them. Then at a certain point, you're like, what the heck do I do with these? But honestly, like I felt that way when I walked away with like that many medals or ribbons. Like I don't know what, like there's only so many shadow boxes that I can make, and hang up in my dog room or whatever. So at a certain point, you begin to wonder, as the person who's creating the awards, what could I create that people will still appreciate and find useful? And honestly, that's why we did discs for the top 15, because many times the top 15 are the same folks. Many of the same folks win top 15 awards each year. And, you know, you can only have so many magnets, so many stickers, so many coasters. I try to switch it up. And I figured discs, you can at least play with them if you don't want to like keep them all stacked up in a display or something. But I'll keep working on it.
Yeah.
And I've got some ideas for next year. And actually, I have some UpDog folks that have volunteered to like help me with things, and that's happened in the past too. And I really appreciate that when people reach out. Let me know about skills or artistry that they have that could help with awards. So thank you to those who have done that in the past. And if you're somebody that has a great idea for an award and maybe you like have a skill or something that could help us out, just let me know. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Anyhow, all right, guys, we have kept you long enough. Please go find a cool local event to attend. Have fun with your dogs out on the field. Earn those points for UpDIF next year. And Dre's showing her wristband there. Dre, what are we supposed to do until we see each other again?
Be kind to each other.
And be kind to yourself.
And be kind to your dogs.
We will see you guys next time on The Sweet Spot.
UpDog go round, oh, run down the field, oh, make get the catch it, bring it back and put it in my hand. Dog, up, dog, go round, dog. Run down the field, dog. I throw, you go and make the catch. Oh, what a great big thrill, dog. 60 seconds on the clock, the points are adding up, dog. I make the throw, you get the catch. Oh, all folks go wild, dog. Up, dog, go round, dog. Now the countdown started, dog. I throw, you go, the disc is flying high down the field, dog. You take a leap, the catch is made, you land right in the sweet spot. Up, dog, go round, dog. Tell all your friends, dog. There is no better disc group in the land. Always be kind to each other, dog, and be kind to your animals, my friend.